California. A little bit gloomy today in the background, but I thought I'd take a little bit of time out of my day to just give you the top 3 pieces of advice that I learnt. If you're not following me on Facebook or receiving my emails, you wouldn't have known that throughout the week, my partners and I actually closed on a 320 unit deal in Dallas, Texas, called Carlton Oaks. Hugely excited to get this thing over the line, I should say. And I just want to bring to you some of the top 3 tips that I learned throughout this process. The number 1 tip that I learned was that the power of having your investing team around you. Now, investing in large multifamily syndications, you can't just do it by yourself. You need to have a team, and that's what we did in this particular deal. Each of the partners had their own specific roles and responsibilities. Some people were responsible for raising capital. Some people were responsible for finding the deal. Some people were responsible for doing the due diligence. We were able to pool our resources together, our skills and ability, to able to close on this deal. So that first piece of advice is you have to have a cracking investment team around you and some great partners. The second piece of advice is that you always need to be raising capital. I don't care if you have a deal on the table right now or you're going to have a deal on the table in 3 months' time. You constantly have to be in front of your investors, meeting new people, going out for coffee, going out for drinks, consistently adding investors to your investment pool or your Rolodex. I try and aim to have about 2 or 3 coffees a week, face to face, so I can actually get in front of them, create a relationship and create trust and transparency. And at the end of the day, it takes a long time to build that credibility before someone will then start investing in one of your deals. The final piece of advice that I took away from this massive deal, this was a little bit more of a technical piece of advice. But it's to do with the private placement memorandum, the PPM. Now, originally, all the partners had anticipated that we were going to raise money from non-accredited investors, and according to Reg D, Rule 506B for Bravo, you can raise up to 35 non-accredited investors can be involved in your deal. However, the PPM was not written that way. There was just a little bit of miscommunication, but that was okay. We kept it the way it was. But the takeaway piece of advice from that was, if you are going to include non-accredited investors or sophisticated investors in your deal, your PPM will cost you more in legal fees to produce, in the order of maybe 20-25 grand. Now, the advice that we got was that if you're going to include non-accredited investors, that additional legal fees, you've got to have to look at the cost of capital. So if you're only going to raise 50 grand from non-accredited investors, then spending 25 grand on legal fees probably isn't going to be worth your money. However, if you're going to raise $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 from non-accredited investors, then that makes sense. Moving forward, our partners and I definitely took that aboard. It was, just a bit of a learning curve. I know a couple of my investors, probably had 6 or 7 investors that couldn't then progress and be involved in the deal just because they weren't accredited. We kept the PPM as an accredited investors only. So they're the 3 bits of advice that I've taken away from this massive deal. So excited to get this over the line. Constantly be raising capital from your investors is hugely important. You have to have your team of investors around you, including good partners, good capital partners, people who you can rely on to help you take down this large deal, because there's a lot of roles and responsibilities involved in a deal like this, and it's easier and less stressful if you can delegate. And the last piece of advice is that using a PPM, if you're going to raise money from accredited investors, it will cost you more money in legal fees, but you have to look at the return on your capital. So by including non-accredited investors in your PPM, how much more money can you raise? How much more large is your investing pool? And I would pretty much sure that if you do include non-accredited investors, you will have in the order of maybe $300,000 or $400,000 of additional capital available. So I hope you got a lot of good cracking advice out of my little talk with you today. I'm going to try and do this every week, come to you from this little spot here. I love it up here in Culver City. And we're going to do it all again next week. So take care, be safe, and remember, happy investing.